What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Black and Gold, the unofficial home of your now 2-1 Boston Bruins. This is HibruiNation. Tonight, I am joined by my co-host, as always, and Matt Vogel down in Studio V, Cummings in the kitchen, and our new news media correspondent, Insider Higgy. We got a lot to unpack for you guys this week, so let's get started. Fellas, how are we doing?
I don't know.
Oh no, that's a weird one. Okay. Why don't
How are we doing?
Jesus, I don't know. Oh my God.
Hot start to the season. I think the boys kind of, a little rusty at first, but picked it back up. I think we have, kind of an idea of what we're looking at as a team. So for, at least for the beginning of the year, and I feel good about it.
Yeah, happy to get that rust off and get that season going. Started up on top so far.
I want to know what the hell is with the I don't know. We're 2-1 with 3 games. What do you mean you don't know? We're doing all right. We're not dead. If we were 0-3,
no. If we were dead, I'd say bad. I think it was a bit of a back and forth week. I think we'd all like to forget that the opening night ever happened.
What do you mean? We never had an opening night. Thursday was.
Yeah, exactly. Night. Yeah, that it was fake. It was like an oopsie. No, but I think a lot of it can be attributed to shaking off the rust, and we're gonna take the positives. Recency bias is our friend.
Oh, I like that. Recency bias. Well, we got some news, right, Vogel?
We do. The biggest news of the week, we had a game yesterday Saturday, for those listening and watching, on the 12th against the Kings, was Matthew Poitras's first game back of the season. He sat out the first 2 games. Clap it up.
Let's fucking go. That kid is a freaking stud.
He looked great. So he sat out the first 2 games. I think the team was just kind of playing it safe with that injury and, not trying to rush him back. His first game was Saturday against the Kings. He looked fantastic. Other than that, the biggest, some other, more minor news is Tyler Johnson still sticking around the team. He's skating with the team. A lot of questions around him. Does he end up signing with the team? When are they going to sign him? If they do, who are they going to move around to make some room for him on the roster and some cap space? So let's just keep an eye on that. Tyler Johnson's still hanging around the team.
Send Riley Tufte down to the AHL. I'm looking at you, Higgy.
Well, in addition to those, Ian Mitchell.
Yes.
Yes. Ian Mitchell also got waived. Cleared waivers is now playing down in Providence.
Oh,
feel better, pal.
I'm surprised nobody claimed him. Are you kidding me? That's a stud defenseman right there. You wouldn't want him in your starting lineup?
I would. He's got
yeah.
Buddy. No, I wouldn't.
Guy wants to strap them to a rocket and send him.
yeah. See, he's the captain on the ship into the sun.
I want to do the same thing to Riley Tufte, though, but it's going to happen. I'm convinced it's going to happen. I'm convinced that they're going to sign Tyler Johnson eventually. They're gonna still figure out what that contract is looking like, and I bet you that's why he's there. I bet you he's looking for just over $1 million, and they're trying to work that out and how they can kind of play that into incentives for him. Because even if they send Tufte down, they'll be at about $1.25 million with cap. So I don't know, but I think it's going to happen.
Keep an eye on.
Something to keep an eye on. I think he'd be a great addition.
Hanging around. He's not going. He hasn't gone anywhere. So I think the same thing. I think eventually they'll get a deal done.
I think so too. Yeah. What does everyone else think about the Tyler Johnson?
I was going to say, with that in mind and what we saw in the first 2 games before Poitras came back, does that early iteration of the third line make you think that maybe we should get Johnson on the lineup? As somebody who was thinking we maybe didn't need him, watching that. The first 2 games of that third line without Poitras on it was not exactly a treat to behold.
No,
it
was tough.
Not great.
Those first 2 games we were just getting that rest off. I think the team was still in preseason mode anyway. We got the real first look at the team against LA, I think. Now, does Tyler Johnson benefit from that team that we saw on Saturday? I think so.
I think the team as a whole will benefit from Tyler Johnson. I mean, Max Jones was a detriment for those 2 games. He was awful. And, I'm willing to give this kid some breaks as the roster kind of takes its form. but I'm not convinced. I'm not sold on Max Jones yet, or if I will be at all. I think your third line would be very, very strong with a Trent Frederick, Patra, and a Tyler Johnson. That would be a really solid third, in my opinion. But that's just me. I don't have data to support it, so I'm just a guy with an opinion, you know?
How dare you?
We had we started our season on Tuesday against the reigning Stanley Cup champions. Yeah, sorry.
We started.
It's I feel like
air quotes on that.
I feel like Dr. Evil with the finger quotations. It'd be like laser. Like, you know, it was a game for sure. It was not one that I would say I enjoyed watching. I thought it was probably one of the most painful things as a Bruins fan to watch as the season started. Not to mention the biggest kick in the dick, which was, you know, watching the banner raise after they knocked us out of the playoffs 2 years in a row. So I don't know. The Bruins lost that game on Tuesday, 6-4. We ended up making it a game way too later than they thought we did. I didn't think the Bruins played a good game on Tuesday.
I mean, not to sound bitter about the whole, you know, they knocked us out, won the cup. That banner sucks. The banner sucks. It looks like just a picture of the cup. It's like almost like written in Times New Roman. The banner sucks. I don't really have much else to say about the game. Really, you know, to sum up all of the notes I had for that game is just bad. It was just all around a bad game.
Yeah, I think my game notes literally first period was just bullet point bad. Next bullet point, Zaka's cool.
That was a wicked shot. That was nice.
It's just like yeah. But I think honestly between that and the penalty kill, I think that are the only upsides from that game. That was absolutely brutal.
That was tough.
Cummins, did you get a chance to watch it?
Highlights and bits and pieces. I was working during it, but
good. So you got to see all the highlights from Florida. So
yeah,
that's basically what it was.
Yeah.
That was a game I would like to, you know, it didn't count. We don't have to get too much into
What game?
No, we're still going 81-0. So as far as I'm concerned,
exactly.
we're going 81-0. No, I would like to, like, you know, echo what Higgy had to say about the two or a couple bright spots that kind of came out of that game was that the penalty kill was phenomenal. I think that was, especially against Florida and the way they were attacking. I'd like to pin a lot on that on Korpisalo, but I just can't. I mean, when your team just doesn't play in front of you, too many backdoor opportunities. I mean, the Bruins really needed to clean it up, stay out of the penalty box going into Thursday's game against Montreal, which we won 6-4. Admittedly, I don't know. The start of that game felt better than the start of the game on the Panther that we did against the Panthers, but I think Montreal getting off to that early lead.
Kim, hold on one second. Rick, we see that down the bottom, and if that makes you feel better about losing and getting your asses handed to you, that's fine. You can feel that way.
Oh, you put a little banner? That's cute. So those of you who are listening who can't see it,
guys. Ha 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 ha.
Score 4. Go ahead. You still needed 7 to win.
There it is. Yeah.
There it is. Oh, yeah. Wow. What a guy. Chirping us from behind the scenes. Unreal. It's okay. Winners win. That's all I have to say, right? Did you guys see that in the opening period? This is one thing I wanted to bring up. How did you guys feel about that goal getting called back on Hampus Lindholm? Where there was the goaltender interference on Justin Brazeau.
I can't speak from experience. The first game I was actually able to sit down and watch was the LA game. So
I don't know. I mean, I watched it in real time, and my first instinct was, that's coming back. And that was without getting into the minutia. Like, I know, did you guys see Jack Edwards going off on Reddit? I think he was like talking about drawing the line in the sky from the crease and where the impact was and all that. But it's just like watching it in real time. It's like I see them kind of calling that back.
Was it more obvious on TV? I was at the Garden. I was at the home opener against Montreal, and from what I saw on the ice and what they showed on the scoreboard after, it didn't. I mean, everybody around me figured it was going to stand. When they came back, I mean, it was a pretty quick review, so I'm assuming it was. But I mean, was it more obvious on TV?
It wasn't egregious. It just the sweater caught the butt end of his stick, right?
Yeah,
and
it
kind
caught
of
the knob.
tweaked him. Yeah, so it wasn't like
is
he
that
made
what
a
it
huge
was?
amount of body
Everyone was
contact.
looking like he might have like bumped his skate.
Yeah, but
No,
there
I
wasn't
believe-
on the scale of things that you would call goaltender interference. I'd argue he could have embellished that. Like that's such an easy thing. Like it was more or less outside of the crease, and it really wasn't anything I thought of substance. Like, I mean, like if you got to think back to the playoffs, like Sam Bennett's cross-check to coil into Swayman was not considered goaltender interference.
Yeah, that was wild.
Which
that was my first comparison.
Which by rule that would be if you're going verbatim by the letter. But that just to me looked like way too soft and a little bit too. He was able to play his position 100%. I don't know. I thought that was a little too soft. And then the Bruins would have that goal called back, and then Montreal would end up, drawing first blood on a goal from, I believe it was Brendan Gallagher that was tipped in on the back door. So, I mean, I still think the Bruins came out stronger against Montreal because we would eventually win 6-4. Off the back, I think of our fourth line, which has been absolutely freaking dynamite. In Beecher, Kostelic, and Kepke.
Yeah,
I don't
absolutely.
know. Let's talk about them too.
That first game, I think, and I think it's a pretty. I mean, at least I would assume, coming out after the rings and the banner raising and still, being angry about the Florida series last year's playoffs. I think that was more of a we're not going to try to win. We're just going to try to kick the shit out of you. Because
that's what I felt.
I mean, that's what they looked angry. They looked angry, and they were taking, like you said, taking penalties and making mistakes and just trying to kill the Panthers. Which, again, I get being angry, but put that behind you.
They tried to beat them, not beat them.
Yes,
you know what I mean.
Yes.
Like and it worked. In a way, like right, they tried to fight them. They tried to do everything they can. They were taking out their anger, but they definitely. Kachuk, every single one of them was able to get under the Bruins' skins because the Bruins let them. And Montgomery even said it. He just goes, "We weren't doing our best. Our best foot forward was not put forward."
So I think going into the second game against Montreal, they don't have that mindset going into it, and that's when you can kind of play more your game.
Yeah, I agree. And it was Swayman's first game back since signing his contract too. So, I mean, I wasn't expecting a stellar game out of Swayman after missing just so much time. I did anticipate a lot of rust to shake off, and I think that's exactly what happened because that's where a lot of the 4 goals came from, albeit 2 of those goals were real quality tip-ins.
I thought he looked good, and like you said, especially for not going through camp. When they announced the roster at the start, like before the game, it was an electric factory. Swayman was the first one out. The place was so loud. It was awesome. It was awesome to see him get that kind of support. It was awesome to see his face skating back on the ice. He was just happy to be there. I mean, it was awesome.
Higgy.
Yeah, it's like we were saying with the whole I don't know comment to jump off. You knew you were going to get some rust on Swayman coming out. First time stepping into game action. Didn't get camp. I know he was working out, but that's no replacement for NHL level action. But between the Panthers game and then I would say probably the first half of that Montreal game, I thought that the performance and coverage from the defense as a whole was just brutal. So it's just like you were saying, like Gallagher with the backdoor tips that were gorgeous, or Florida, it was like completely blown coverages. It's like the guys can only do so much. So it's like you got a guy coming in probably as cold as he's ever been starting a season, and you're just not helping him out very much at all. So I think that if anything, it's more of an indictment on the defense than it is on Swayman. I don't really care what his stat line was for that game. And same with Korpisalo. I didn't think Korpisalo was excellent, but it's certainly not the issue there.
Mm-hmm. To your point about some of the disciplinary stuff too. Look at the penalties between those 2 games. I think there was 14 penalties. They were averaging 17 penalties a game through the first 2 games. Did you think that contributed? And a lot of them were on the defense too.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Zadorov is, I think, averaging maybe 2 penalties a game right now. he's not having a good start in a Bruins sweater, in my opinion.
I think he's just trying to play that big bad Bruin too much. He's trying to fit some imaginary role too much. As you said, for the way we were trying to get underneath Florida, so Florida was getting underneath our skin, we were trying to beat them up. I think Zora's trying to just play too physical, and he's getting caught out there.
Let me ask you guys, is it an imaginary role? Or is it something that's always been a part of the Bruins' identity, where we always wanted to be that heavy-hitting team that had on defense, that heavy or that heavy forecheck-ish kind of in the neutral zone kind of area? I think we were always the 1-2-2 or something. I can't remember exactly, but I think that's always been our style. Stuff down in the neutral zone, and if they enter in the blue line, hit them down. Right? I think that's always been a style. So is it actually? An imaginary position, or is it just him taking the identity too far?
I think it's just the image we've created that everyone around us, all the hockey fans, everyone around us, image Bruins to be that. Just looking at how everyone's played in the back, I feel.
I think it's something that's necessary, and I think it's something that we've been missing, but I do think it's something that takes tact as well. And I think that what we're seeing so far, and it's something that I was a little worried about with the player as a whole coming in, was that he's willing to play heavy and he's willing to fill that role, but he also isn't unfamiliar with brushing up against the rules. So if you watch some of it, it was like cross checks in the corner from behind and like stupid plays like that I don't think are filling that role. I think it's just kind of blockheaded hockey at certain points. Because again, when you're as big as he is too, it's like you're not going to get away with the cross checks the same way that somebody that's of equal size with the person they're jostling with is going to get away with. It's like if somebody knows that you got a 6'6", 250 guy bearing down behind you, a little easier to sell it too.
Yep.
So I'll give him the benefit of the doubt, and again, just kind of equate everything across the defense to a little bit of early season rust and sort of like figuring out who they slot in with and the expectations as a whole. But I am worried that disciplinary concerns with him might be a real thing.
I think he had a good game against Montreal. Still kind of going back to our kind of digesting the second game a bit, because he had an assist at the least, right? And I think he did better, but I think just taking those penalties was rough, especially with the accumulation of penalties between the first two games. I don't know if there's really much else to be said on the Montreal game outside of it was a wonderful rivalry night for Boston. I mean, home opener. Regardless of the outcome for me, I'm glad we won, but I think that is just awesome hockey to watch. That's our oldest rival, the Montreal Canadiens. It's always a fun game to watch, and for me, I actually thoroughly enjoyed it, despite them scoring 4 on Swayman. But something in the back of my mind, basically, that we were still going to win that game. Rick keeps posting some "Go Habs Go" banner on us. For those of you who are listening and cannot see it, so he's trying his best to get involved in here.
It was an and again, just from a hockey standpoint, I thought it was a great game. It was a great game to watch. There was back and forth, both sides. And like you said, the rivalry obviously plays into it. I made a special appearance in the Talking Habs little watch party they have going on over there. After a Bruins goal, popped in real quick, celebrated the goal, had the goal horn in the background, jumped right back out. I thought it was great. I thought it was great I thought it was a great team win. I thought it was a great win, for the fans having Montreal come to town. I thought it was a great win for us at HibruiNation, the little rival we have with Hab Normals and Talking Habs.
Yep.
So I think that's going to be a fun thanks, Rick. I think that's going to be a fun thing to, aspect to the season. But yeah, I thought it was take all the bullshit out of it. It was a good game.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
How'd you guys feel about McAvoy's performance in that game? I feel like he was definitely a star. I think he shined in that game. I think he had 2 goals, if I'm not mistaken. He was buzzing.
Yeah, I think he's had a lot of jumps to the start of the season as a whole, which has been nice. I think it seems like he's getting freed up to sort of drive the offense a little bit more, and I think that's what we're starting to see with the performance. I think does he get 2-1, 2-2, something like that. But just the defense as a whole getting more involved in the offense, and him especially being freed up to sort of do that, I think is going to bode really well for us.
Yeah. Cummings, you look like you had something to say.
I was going to say he's just fitting into that leader of the defense more and more. You know, since Chara kind of left, I felt like he's kind of maybe been that next up. Maybe hasn't filled that shoes per se to the greatest ability, but he's definitely off to a great start this year with it.
Vogel, want anything to add?
After the playoffs last year, and if you go back to some past episodes, you could probably find it. I was kind of down on him, you know, after the playoffs. I think he had a bad playoff run, maybe a bad, you know, series or two. I think that he's a solid player. Truthfully, I don't feel the hype that everyone else does, but going into this year, I hope that I get proved wrong. And you know, he's also taken some penalties. He's scored some goals. So there's been positives and negatives, but I'm rooting for him to have a really good year. Like I said, I want him to prove me wrong, and I want to, you know, buy into all the hype.
There's a player that I'm going to use. I'm actually going to use him to lead us into yesterday's game against the LA Kings on Saturday, which was Saturday. Where the Bruins won 2-1. Very tight game, but Elias Lindholm has impressed me beyond all belief. I didn't anticipate him to come in and be almost a 2-point per game player right now. I mean, he is showing that he honestly belongs here.
He's on pace for like 136 points.
Yeah, which is nuts. Like, if you think, like, I don't think he's going to get there. There'll be some tapering off, and
yeah.
But how well he's meshing with Zacha, Pasternak, his two-way game is just looking at the eye test. It's just phenomenal. He seems to be everywhere. He just like Matt Poitras. He just seems to be involved in everything. He's digging for pucks. He's fighting for things. He's just impressive. But I kind of had that expectation to a degree because he was a first-line center out in Calgary.
He was that 1C we strived for, that we needed to fill that spot, and he has filled those shoes and then some, as you said. He has exceeded expectations.
Yeah. And that was also Poitras's first game back with the Kings, who just did as equally well, even though he didn't get on the score. He did get on the score sheet with an assist in overtime to David Pasternak for the game winner because he just kind of flung it in that direction because he was quoted that he was tired, and so he just kind of flung it to Pasternak, and then it ended up being yeah. And you know, they don't ask how, they ask how many. But he was also everywhere. So I think these are just two players that you're going to need to look for, and I think that maybe Poitras might even start on the second line. What do you guys think?
I don't want it to be the case already, but I was thinking in the back of my head, I was like, if he continues to show the way that he has and is able to sort of show that he's a little more up to the rigors of it this year, do you consider moving him into that second line role and slotting Coyle down one? Because I still maintain that Coyle serves you best as a two-way shutdown type of center rather than a play driver. So it's like if you're having Marchand with that kind of guy, would he be better served with somebody that might be able to help in the playmaking department? So I think that's a little further down the line that we would think about that. But the fact that he stepped in and immediately looked like he, one, belonged there, and two, didn't miss a beat from where he was at last year is extremely promising. I think we have to be pretty amped to get to see hopefully a full season of it.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's in a better spot than he was last year. You know, he had time to you know, work out. He's put on, like we said before, he's put on at least 10 pounds in the off season. He's been working. I didn't even think to I didn't even think about slotting him on that second line and then moving Coyle down to a third. I didn't even think of that. I mean, that would be interesting if that's where it goes.
I would just like to point out, Higgy, Patra put on 10 pounds of muscle. I don't know if you put on 10 pounds of muscle, but I'll give you 2 pounds of muscle. The rest, I'll let you do whatever imagination.
Hey, that's being generous.
Yeah, I'll give you something. I'm not going to just say that you just sat at Fenway Park and ate hot dogs all day. Like, you know what I mean? But hey, you know, would you guys think
of a clown? Don't get me started on that.
What'd you guys think of the game overall, though, against the Kings? For me personally, I mean, it was a hard-fought game. Kind of gave me a little bit of nerves. I genuinely thought, real quick, that the Kings were going to significantly miss Drew Doughty. They were playing really well without him. What do you guys think of the whole game?
I thought it was the best showing of the three as far as actual team quality hockey goes. I know the Montreal game was fun because we can say that we scored a whole bunch, but I think as far as like structurally sound hockey and getting back to what we're hoping this team looks like, then that when I said I don't know, it's because the first two games really didn't show me much of anything. That third game made me like that looked like what I would expect the Bruins team to look like. Better defensive play, excellent goaltending performance, just a more universally sound showing from the team. And at the end of the day, your key guys were the ones that came through. So like you're facing a better opponent, you're facing a team that has playoff aspirations, and your big dogs are the ones that showed up. So I just think that is the game that should give us something to look forward to out of the three.
Vogel.
I missed most of the game, if not just the first period, maybe a little bit of the second. I was up in New Hampshire on Saturday during the day. But from what I saw before, I mean, there's the issues that I saw are, you know, some of this, all the same bullshit that we've talked about. It's taking a lot of penalties. It's not tightening up in the defensive zone. They're leaving guys open, you know, out front or back door or what have you. And that's where a lot of the goals have come from this year so far.
Trevor Moore.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It happened again with Korpisalo. You can say a lot of those goals weren't his fault, and that's where it came from. You know, shots for a rebound, and he can only control a rebound so much. But you got to tie up the guy in front of the net. Same thing happened against Montreal. It happened a few times. So that's some of the biggest things. But from what I saw, I agree with Kyle. It's been the best game we've played so far. I don't think the Kings are a bad team, and I think that it was for the most part, a pretty evenly matched game, and I thought it was good hockey.
Cummings,
our best showing so far.
Oh, sorry.
You can't agree with both of them. It was our best game, but as to go off of Vogel said it, if you take that one goal, like one goal that LA did them scoring was a complete defensive breakdown. It was on the penalty kill. Again, another.
It was as the penalty kill expired. So by technicality, it was not. So the penalty kill was still pretty perfect. Like, so I understand what you're saying.
Came out of the box, but the way everything just broke down, it just kind of fluttered through, and you left him completely with a wide open net. You can't blame Swayman on that. But again, happy to see Sway back in his true form.
He was lights out.
Unreal.
He had a great game.
Like he was showing that he goes, hey guys, I'm worth that contract I just signed. Like that right there was just an exemplary.
I am a top 5 goalie.
Easy. And I think he has the potential to be. I want to touch on the power play in summary of the whole week, because the Bruins would go on to win that game 2-1. And the summary of the whole week is the loss on Tuesday, 6-4, a win on Thursday, 6-4, and a win on Saturday, 2-1. But the one thing that I've seen on that power play is that they are still giving up odd man rushes on their own power play, and they cannot break it the fuck out of the zone. It's a continuing problem. Do they need to switch up the power play units? I don't know. But maybe the issue is with the puck that they're trying to just speed all the way through, but they're getting met at the blue line. But was it just me? Did you guys see that they're also letting up odd man chances? I
think that they've had this problem for a little while now. And I would say that the issue with the breakout is even at even strength. That's like the one thing with Montgomery that drives me nuts is they have one set breakout and they'll never deviate from it, even if it's not working. You saw it in the Florida game. You saw it in the Florida series in the playoffs. You got guys bearing down on you. They can't break the puck out. And then on the power play, it seems like the entire flow just dies in the neutral zone and everybody's flat-footed at the line waiting to get across. So then it's just like no clean zone entries, no time to get set up. It just looks like so choppy, which that makes me think that it's a coach thing versus a execution thing.
I could agree to that. What do you think? Like they're missing? Do you think that they're missing a puck moving defenseman? Like, do you really think that they're missing Grizzly? Because I don't think so. They have the likes of they have. Because I heard someone say that to me, and I was like, Grizzly was part of the problem on the defensive end of the puck. I would be hard pressed. Like they have Lowry who moves that puck well. Lindholm moves the puck well. McAvoy, Carlo, they all can move the puck. I think it's just you're right. Maybe it's just the way the coaching system is.
Yeah, I think it's a system thing rather than a horses thing. I think we have plenty capable players to be able to execute.
So now, what about on the opposite of that? So that's the breakout, but on the power play, we've seen a bunch of mishandles on the blue line, and it's led to some pretty significant like odd man rushes. And that's like nothing new that we've seen before. So what do they need to do with that? Is it just as simple as getting the puck deep?
I think a little bit of it's going to be figuring out what that unit actually looks like. I know they've done a lot of personnel changes throughout, trying to figure out what sticks. And I think that's just going to be a little bit of a continuity thing as people get used to where everybody's going to be. You're playing with people you're not used to playing with. I think that'll settle down. I'm sure that's a little less concerning to me rather than some of the other stuff has been recurring issues since Montgomery's taken over, where it's just like, okay, it hasn't changed yet. They haven't made any attempts to change it. So that scares me a little more than what I would equate to early season jitters or just not knowing where guys are because you haven't been playing with them for a long enough time on the power play.
What do you guys think is the number one, after watching the first 3 games? It's a small sample size, but after watching the start of the season, and I want to hear this from all of you, what do you think the number one thing that the Bruins, even though we're 2-1, it's a wonderful thing that we need to celebrate, but there's been still a lot of recurring issues, as you said, Higgy. What do you think the number one thing is that this team kind of needs to improve on going into week 2?
Defensive structure.
Say that again. Sorry.
Defensive structure.
Defensive structure. Okay.
Just get there, find out what who's going to be where, what is your responsibility, who's going to be able to cover what, so you can also be able to have Slay or Corpusalo's back, or vice versa. They have yours.
You're going off that. I think the biggest thing is just situational awareness. Whether it's in the defensive zone, picking up guys out front. You still have a couple new faces to the team. They're still trying to find their groove, but you got to be aware of who's on the ice with you, who's on the ice for the other team, where they are, where your teammates are, who's picking up open guys. And another big thing is penalties. Penalties have been bad, and I believe they've been, I don't know if it's a league-wide thing or in they trying to hammer down on that early, but I think that from what I saw, I mean, there's a lot of penalties, more than usual. No,
I think it's been league-wide. I think it's been league-wide.
Yeah,
but still, that's still not great. You guys still got to learn to play discipline. Higgy,
if you ask me, earlier in the week, the biggest thing what I would say was get shots on net. Get shots on net. That first game against Florida, and I know that we've already gotten into it and kind of guessed on why the game wasn't the best, but they had one shot for most of the first period against a team like that. It's not going to happen. Pepper them with shots. There's
Vogel's 13 reasons why. Higgy, what do you got?
I honestly, it's the 2 things these guys already touched on. I think the defensive coverage needs to get cleaned up. I think you keep playing that lax and missing coverage like that, and you're not going to go very far. So cleaning that up, and I think with that, the penalties will start to come down as well. I think that some of the penalties we've seen in the defensive zone is due to people being out of position, trying to make up and scrambling to cover for blown coverage. So I think cleaning up the D zone across the board, and then obviously playing more disciplined. But I think they kind of go hand in hand. Where if you get the entire team system sort of cleaned up, that it'll all sort of come together as one.
Hey, while we're talking about, just touching on the penalties, what have you guys ever seen a penalty like Brad Marchand's in the Montreal Canadiens game, that delay game?
Nope.
Yeah, that was weird for me. So I looked it up. I looked it up, right? Because I was on with Rick and I was on the live stream that they were doing on Talking Habs, and I'm just like, why is that a penalty? I'm like, it's in the offensive zone. And Rick had said to me, it doesn't matter. It was with intent. And so I looked up the rule, and the rule does state verbatim, like intentionally launching the puck out of the zone in it doesn't matter where.
So it's a judgment call. There was a judgment.
It's a judgment call. And so I'm like, it's kind of hard to judge intent there, though. Like he could have been going for it was very lackadaisical. I'm going to give you that. So I think it was a judgment call. I think it was a poor judgment call. I thought it was very soft, and I'm just like, I've never seen that called before in a game. I haven't.
Okay, I thought I was losing my mind. I've never seen that.
So
no, I'm right there with you.
Everybody,
but it is in the rule book. It's kind of crazy, but I would say refs wouldn't call that.
Do we think it being Marchand weighs in?
Yes, 100%.
If that's the case, then yes. I don't think that he can get away with anything.
Yeah,
I think there's always going to be
he just has that reputation.
So I agree with all of you. It's weird. I've never seen it. I was kind of baffled by it, but it is in the rule book. But I think on the offensive side of that, if it happens there, it's a judgment call. I was not happy with it, but it is what it is, right? Like, you have four zebras on the ice. 3 of them are blind, and one of them's looking at the crowd. So, it's
I just didn't know if you guys had heard anything. I mean, it was the craziest thing. Seeing it in person was the craziest thing.
Yeah, I know he was irate. I know he was irate, but
everybody was.
Yeah, I don't. Well, yesterday too, with the way the penalties have been being called in the LA Kings game, dude. We had issues with that, right? So it was just. The crowd was they were having enough, dude. They started booing the crowd. So it was kind of crazy. Yeah, I don't know. But just to kind of roll this up and to just give my thoughts, I think the biggest issue the Bruins need to have is they need to start on time. They have not started a single game on time. They started better, but they have not started on time. That echoes the shots, the defense. The only player that has started on time has been Jeremy Swayman. And that's because he's just standing there. Like, you know what I mean? Like, the goalie has to kind of start on time, right?
Yeah.
So,
gave up the first goal in all 3 games.
Yeah. No, yeah. That was, not giving up the first freaking goal every game. Yeah. That would be helpful.
I mean, overall, though, again, we can complain about that first Florida game till we're blue in the face, but not a bad week.
No,
not at all.
It's you know what it is, too? Sometimes it's so easy to focus on the negative, because you want to see the very best product that we can put forward. But this was a really good week for Boston, coming off of not having many NHLers in preseason, just getting Swayman back, facing off against, your new rival in the Florida. Like, that rivalry is going to be insane. It's going to be blood. I'm going to love it. And then you go right into a game with Montreal. There's blood in that. And then the Kings, who are another emerging team. So I would argue that these 3 teams were not 3 easy opponents for the Bruins.
And we'll get to it in the week look ahead, but there's 3 more tough ones coming up.
It's gonna be blood, and I love it, dude. I love it. It's gonna be frustrating, but it's gonna be fun to watch, and it's exciting hockey. Hockey's back. It's what it's all about.
Absolutely.
That being said, we've talked a lot about our Bruins that we felt that have done well, and then some that we feel like we need to step up. But why don't we just do it in a more formalized fashion? Higgy, why don't you introduce the next segment?
Yeah, I'd say we're going to introduce a new segment for all the listeners. It's going to be a recurring weekly segment. We're going to call it the Big Bad Bruin of the Week. Each one of us will weigh in, pick our player for the past week that we think has shown out the most, and then we'll also have a segment to follow that with the player that we think needs to bear down, needs to step up. You guys want me to take it away? I can get us going.
Absolutely.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's go.
Cool. Yeah, my first big bad Bruin of the week, the inaugural edition, is going to be David Pastrnak. For me to pick somebody that has the marquee name, they had to have really shown up. I tend to have a bit of a sliding scale when it comes to those guys. Those are the kind of guys that excellence is the expectation. But I think that the fact that he had a goal in all 3 games so far, including a big overtime winner in what was probably their best performance yet, really says a lot for his start to the season. I think if your team is going to succeed, it's going to be on his back. I think this is a team that has a lot of offensive question marks, and he's probably the only bona fide elite talent that you have up front. So seeing that guy actually be that guy is an excellent start to the season and something that you're going to need to see a lot of.
Cool.
Christian, who you got?
What do you got, Cummins?
I got Swayman. I'm just happy to see him back in the Bruins sweater. As we said, he didn't have the best of first game in that, but you can't really put that on him. He was absolutely lights out, as we already kind of said, in LA. But again, just happy to see him officially back in the net, and I'm happy to see what he can do as the official, number 1 goalie for us.
It's a good point. I actually really like that pick. It's a good point. Vogel, who do you got?
I have Elias Lindholm. He is the current, for a new addition to the team, he is the current leader for points with 2 goals and 3 assists in 3 games. He's fitting in fantastic on a new team. It seems like he's really embraced Boston. He's embraced the team. I think going into the year, everyone was like, you expected him to fill that 1C spot, but I think that in the first 3 games, he's really, exceeded expectations, and I'm very excited to see what he brings going forward.
I am going with a 4th liner. I'm going to go with Mark Kastelic. This guy he scored I believe 2 goals against Montreal, and he's been a high impact, high energy player on the 4th line, which in my personal belief, the 4th line has been dynamite. They have 7 of our 33 points collectively this season, which is absolutely nuts. I think they're arguably the best 4th line in hockey just right now as it sits right now. That could change over the course of time, but they're tackling everything. They're getting after it. The forecheck is insane. I didn't think Koepke was going to be as good as a 4th liner as he's being. I also had zero faith in Kastelic, but Kastelic has earned my respect. I believe he has a fight as well that he got into. I don't know. This guy just screams big bad Bruin to me. I don't know what else, dude. I'm convinced. I'm on it. I'm on him. I'm a big Kastelic guy. Mark it down. Write it down.
I had it. I think in notes for every single game, I just had it in all caps. Kastelic is the balls. He's been so good. I love watching him play, and it's not just that physical side. He's scoring goals too. So I love to see that. That's a good pick.
He's coming for that 7th player award.
Maybe that might have been a good he might win it. Honestly, with the way he's playing right now, my pick of Patra might be down. I really want Potsy to win it, but damn, dude, Kastelic was making.
We can reassess halfway through the season.
I'm gonna need to, buddy. I'm kind of getting the jitters about it. He gets me excited now. I went to the first preseason game and I thought he played terribly. I thought he had a bad showing, and I was like, oh great, the rumors might be true. And now I'm just like, God, I freaking love this guy. Put him on. I want him. I need him 18 minutes on time on ice every night. I need to see that. I need to see it. I need the juice. You know what I mean? That's what I need out of him. He's the balls. Love it. And Bruins fans, if you haven't seen him play and if you disagree with me, then I don't know what kind of hockey you're watching, but this guy is the balls. No other argument. All right, that's going to lead us into the bear down player. Which is the player who needs to step it up. It's not necessarily to say that they're performing terribly, but it's kind of where they're not expecting or they're not performing to what expectations we would typically have. So we're going to start with Cummings, and he's going to give us who he thinks needs to step it up going into week 2.
I got Charlie Coyle.
Okay.
Now, if we're talking back to what we said about Potter taking that 2C spot, I'm talking about Coyle at the 2C spot. You know, he had through 3 games, he was only 42.5% on the faceoff dot. He's a -3, only 1 shot on goal through 3 games. He's there defensively with, 5 block shots, 4 hits, but he's not there. And he's not there defensively. I mean, he's not there offensively. He's there defensively. So now, if we are talking back to that whole Poitras situation, if we move him down to that 3C, maybe he fits better there in what he's given us right now.
That's a solid pick, I think, because Coyle performed very well with Trent and Geeks, so I think that's a solid choice. I actually am not a huge fan of Geeks on the second line, if I'm going to be honest with you, but we don't have anybody else right now unless they'd sign Johnson. But I'm also not a fan of him on the second line either, so I don't really know how else to go from there. Higgy, hit me with it.
For me, it's unfortunately one of the guys that I had pegged as one of my players to watch this year, Brandon Carlo. Our defensive stalwart shutdown guy has been anything but so far. Unfortunately, he's sitting at a -2 through 3 games. Has some truly dreadful blown coverages, which is the complete opposite of what we're used to seeing from him. Again, it's something that I want to sort of chalk up to early season, getting up to game speed and whatnot, but just a very, very uncharacteristic start for a guy that's basically been your steady Eddie on the back end so far. So definitely going to need more from him moving forward.
Vogel.
I have Justin Brazeau. I thought pretty consistently in all 3 games, he stunk. I didn't love that third line anyway. I think it's better now that Poitra's back. He really seemed to struggle so far. And again, it's only been 3 games. And I think that he's a player that'll get moved around. I don't think he's a solidified, in that third line spot. He's gonna move around. But, bad turnovers. He hasn't been able to handle passes, has trouble getting shots off. I don't think that he should be anywhere near the power play. He was on one of the power play units against LA. I mean, and I don't understand that at all. So keep him far away from the power play. But I think going forward that he's going to have to show more.
I had the entire second line. Yeah, I think sorry. So it needs to be Marchand, Coyle, and Geeky. At least the third line has put up points. I expected a lot more out of players like Marchand. Now, allegedly, he's testing out this longer stick, and whatever the hell is going on with Coyle, I don't know. But those 3 players are just, for me, I don't know what's not clicking with them. Maybe they need a little bit more time. Maybe it's not. It could also not be Coyle. It could be Geeky. It could be something else. I don't know. But that entire second line has been absent through 2 games. I don't think they've seen much in the way of offense. But defensively, they've been, good, I would argue. But from a line like that with a guy like Marchand and the potential in Geeky and a guy with Coyle who had a good season last year, I just had higher expectations, especially against maybe their divisional rival in Montreal, and especially with a team like the Kings who are missing a huge defensive player in Drew Doughty. I expected more out of them. Now, Marchand had a point. I think he got the assist off of Elias Lindholm's goal, but outside of that, he shot the puck and the puck just happened to land on Elias Lindholm's stick and boom, back in the net. Outside of that, I don't really think they have done anything spectacular. So that's it.
I think it's pretty wild. The first week that we do this, you kind of a cop out taking the second line, but none of us had the same player for anything. I think that's kind of a crazy thing.
No, because I think I think it's a good thing though, because then you can argue well, maybe we all saw the game in different ways. Yeah, you're right. It is a cop out. I am taking the entire second line. If there is a guy I would have to pick on that line, though, it would be Morgan Geeky. It would be Morgan Geeky. The guy has
agree with that
also
for sure.
that guy has also done zilch in the way of offense. But this is strictly in terms of offensive way I'm assessing that, right?
That's fair.
So
That's fair.
yeah, that's really it. But let's look at the week ahead. And like, ladies and gentlemen, also let us know like if you guys agree or disagree with us. Is there someone who performed worse? Is there someone who performed better? I'm pretty sure some people are thinking Mason Lowry. I'm pretty sure some people are thinking Hampus Lindholm. Some people are thinking Zadorov. I don't know. Maybe. But hard to also pinpoint anything on the fourth line. That's all I have to say on that. So that leaves the defense. Let's take a look ahead. Or look at the week ahead. I can't speak English today. Or any day for that matter. Tomorrow, which is going to be Monday on the day of this episode's release at 1 p.m., we have a matinee game against the Panthers. Does anyone else think the matinee games suck?
Yes.
Yep. Especially when it's not a universal holiday.
Yeah, I have to freaking work tomorrow, which is not a bad thing. I love my job, but at the same time, I also love watching hockey. So that's bad. So we got them tomorrow at home at TD Garden. So let's go, boys. Let's get that revenge game, right? This is going to matter to us. They're going to actually be – so the Panthers are going to actually be without Sasha Barkov. He's out week to week. I think it was a leg or ankle injury that's kind of hindering him a bit.
This also, too, I saw that we play them 4 times this year. So we play them twice in the first week of the season, and then we don't see them again, I believe, until January, and then again in April.
It's going to be bloody.
So, this is that's the last time we see them again for a while. So you want to make an impact now.
Yep. I'm on the whole thing of beat them where it matters, the scoreboard. They don't give a crap if you bruise them. Bruises heal, but bragging rights are forever, in my opinion. But they have a lot of bragging rights on us right now. But
and you also didn't bruise them. You kind of just made yourself look like morons
assholes
running around. Yeah, trying to goad them into fights like they're gonna fight you when they're up 3. It's like, come on now.
Yep. And then on the 16th, which is, I believe, Wednesday, we go to Denver, Colorado for the Avalanche, which is a 9:30 p.m. Start time. They have, I think, the worst bottom 9 forward group. Have you guys seen that forward group? They suck.
They had to.
They're terrible. Like, I think the only really good player on the second line is Casey Middlestat. I think they need help in the way of I don't know, is Landeskog retiring fully? Has that been announced? I can't remember, but they need something. They need
Cam, I think you need to put some respect on Bruins legend Chris Wagner's name.
You and the fourth line guys. Yeah, I love
home of Riley Tufte, Colorado.
I loved Wagner. I think it was one of the biggest mistakes. I think they didn't play him in the 2019 Stanley Cup final game. I think it was a big mistake that they didn't play him, along with David Backes too. I think 2 big mistakes that the Bruins made. And then we move on to Friday, I believe, if that is the day. Saturday at 9 p.m. in Utah against the Utah yet to be named.
Not Coyotes.
The Utah not Coyotes. Real quick on that, they're awesome. I love that team. I know they're just
a really fun team to watch.
Yeah, I know they're just a rebrand of the Coyotes, but they made on the offseason, man, dude, they're high flying, they're fast. I love it. Like, they're 3-0. I don't know. I'm just a huge fan of them right now. But that's it. What do you guys think for the record this week? Are we going to try and guess it? Let's do it. Vogel, come on.
Well, I want it on record that I was correct last week about all 3 games, wins, losses in order. So this week I am going to go win, loss, win. I think we beat the Panthers at the Garden. We're going to lose out in Colorado, and I think that they're going to finally knock some sense into that Utah team that has been on a hot streak.
That Utah.
Yeah, that classic Utahs. Yeah, that Utah team that's been so hot to start this year. They've been so much fun to watch.
Oh, love it. Clayton Keller.
Dylan.
Dylan Gunther. Holy crap, or Gunther.
Yeah.
Oh my God, dude, he's on a tear. Love that guy. Higgy.
I'm gonna go WWL.
Oh,
I think the second game on the Western swing is going to take its toll. I think if they get up for these first two against the actual competition, then I could see them kind of falling asleep for that third game on Saturday.
Nice. Cummings, what do you got?
I'm going with Vogel. I got win-loss win.
Solid. All right. I'm actually going to go with Higgy and go WWL. I do think Utah is going to give us some trouble. I looked at that Colorado roster. I mean, Georgiev is playing like Garbo. Garbo. Dude, he is. He's garbanzo beans, man. Like, have you seen his goals against that? It's not good. It's not good. It's not good. And I think we get the revenge game tomorrow against Florida. All right, boys.
The Garden's going to be loud.
Well, you hope so. You hope so. That they could take the wind out of our sails very, very quickly. They're very capable of it. But the Boston faithful got to remain exactly that. They got to remain faithful. All right, Vogel. Guys. Higgy. Cummings. Me. Final thoughts before we go.
Riley Tufte, second line. Sounds good to me.
Oh my God, send him down. Give me Tyler Johnson. Never mind. Higgy's not coming back on. Guys, that was our insider. Insider Higgy. He has been terminated from HibruiNation for 4 takes. All right, guys. That'll do it. But Vogel, why don't you take us out?
All right, that is going to do it for HibruiNation episode 15. Ladies and gentlemen, do not forget to check out our new website, HibruiNation.com. We are posting up blogs up there. Our podcast is up there. We're going to have some more content for you throughout the season. So check that out. Like, subscribe, send us some hate mail, some fan mail, some voice submissions. Check out our Twitter at HibruiNationPod. Has all the info there. Other than that, everyone who's listening or watching on YouTube, we love you guys, and we'll catch you next week. And as always, go Bruins.
Go Bruins.
Woo!
No!